Welcome to Free and Accepted Podcasting, Suffolk Freemasons podcast designed to inform, entertain and educate. Welcome to another Free and Accepted podcast. This afternoon I have the delight in speaking to Jamie Gwatkin and Peter Green. Jamie, could you introduce yourself please for the people?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Jamie Gwatkin and I am the Provincial Grand Almoner for the province of Suffolk.
Lovely. And Peter?
Hello, I'm Peter Green. I'm the chairman of the Friends of Cornwallis Court.
Lovely, thank you very much. Now we're going to start with you, Peter. That's a grand title you have, with a lot of responsibility, I suspect.
Yes, well, I came into the role just as COVID started, and I was appointed by the Provincial Grand Master at his bequest to oversee and run the armoring operation across the whole of the province. And that includes running a team of 12, which is the group armourers, and also the advice and support team member from the Masonic Charitable Foundation, Caroline Wales. And I also have some leads as well who are in charge of various projects. And I have to say, to begin with, I couldn't do my job without them. I'm very proud.
They do a wonderful job, and I know the one, my group, he does a fantastic job. And we're going to go on to the armourer's role, because I don't think some people may not fully understand what it is and what it can offer. And you don't have to be old and infirm to get the benefit from it. And I think that sometimes people don't always understand that. Now, Peter, chairman of the Friends of Cornwallis Court, a number of people, particularly new Masons, might say, what is Cornwallis Court? If you're from Bury St Edmunds, there was always an affiliation where my mother lodge was, because some of the members used to come and visit a lodge in Bury. So for people who are unaware of what Cornwallis Court, in a few words.
Yeah, I could go on for hours. But in a few words, it is a home run by the RMBI. It usually caters for residential care, nursing care, and prevention.
Yep.
We have recently had the input of seeking a grant from the RMBI to build a new one. And the old one has done very well. It was built in the 19th century as a nursing maternity hospital, actually, for those in Edmonds. And since then, it's had lots of upgrades and things, but it is one of the best of these places in the country. It's recently received the CQC Award of Outstanding, which puts it in the top 5%.
Which is lovely. Yeah. Now, people, again, although it's in Bury St Edmunds, it's not only for all the brethren of Suffolk.
No, not at all. If you look at the map, Bury St Edmunds is in the middle of East Anglia, everywhere. So it covers Cambridge, it serves Cambridge, and it serves Norfolk as well.
Yeah. Now, are they all Masons within Cornwallis Court? Or?
Not at all. No. There is this sort of thinking that it is only for Masons or Masons dependents, and it was explained to me. It is a business. It has to cover itself. It has to make money to survive, and it will take non-Masons. They're carefully selected, but as it was explained to me, if they're looking at two people who, with everything, all things being equal, they are the same in terms of their ability to pay the rent and stuff like that, and their condition, they'll always choose the Mason outsider.
Because we have had the festival, the previous festival, it doesn't seem 5 years ago, that we had that rest after the last dinner. Look, thankfully, that's another 5 years we can relax. But we're now into yet another festival. But on Friday, you were both at Cornwallis Court because there was quite a large event, Jamie.
Yes, so on Friday we commemorated what we call the turf cutting exercise, which was undertaken by Sir David Gwatkin, and it was to commemorate the start of the redevelopment of Cornwallis Court, which is an investment from the RMBI of £16 million
Which is
over the next 2.5 years. Is that right, Peter?
That's right, which is a lot more than any festival raised by Suffolk would get as well.
Yeah.
So we do get more back than we actually give.
Yeah. Who had the spade and who dug the first sod? I think they're called.
So David did.
He did.
So yes, we had loads of photographs of him in various positions holding a sod of turf, and but actually alongside them was Denise O'Brien, who's the care home manager, and also the head of the RMBI as well was there. So it was a great event, wasn't it, Peter?
It's okay.
And how long is it going to take? You talked about 2.5 years, did you? It's a long,
Like that.
long.
Yeah. So what they're going to do, which is completely unique, is they're going to do the redevelopment in two parts. They're going to evacuate one half of the home, a third of the home. Is that
It'll be
right?
done in 3 sections.
Okay. And then put the residents in the remainder of the home, keep all the staff,
Yeah.
and then they'll build the first part, and then they'll then move back, and then populate as they go along. So it's going to
It's going to be quite an operation.
it's going to be 64 beds at the end, and it'll be the most up-to-date care home in the country.
And what do you, if are those thinking, oh, that might suit me in a few years, quite rightly, first of all, what is the accommodation? Is it just a bedroom, or do you have a living area, or is there a communal living area?
To the best of my knowledge, there is a large living area. Every room has ensuite facilities, and there's quite a number of smaller prominent rooms, smaller ones than we currently have. So ideal for a family.
Yeah. So it's going to be fantastic when
It's actually been built on the plan of Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh Court in Reading.
Oh,
It's
right.
an exact copy of that. They've used the same plan to build Cornwallis Court. The only difference being Cornwall in Berwick is it's on a bit of a hill.
Yeah.
So the architect had to adjust the slide rule a bit. And they've also kind of recently discovered through the council that there's a Napoleonic armoury on the site, and they're worried about cannonballs and substance. And that held
Don't smoke.
that held us up for a little while in terms of getting going.
Well,
Say us,
yeah.
it's what I've been told.
Well, you always have that when new developments in. There's the newts, isn't there? Or there's some other wildlife that we can't possibly. So we don't have that. So we just don't want builders blowing themselves up.
No, exactly.
Too early. That's going to be. And what's the criteria for somebody wanting to move into, applying to move into Cornwallis Court? Do you know?
Oh, well, I can only sort of say what happened in my own family. Then. Just a need, able to look after themselves at home, and needed to be cared for.
Yeah. So it may not be an age thing; it may be an infirm thing. Somebody's had a stroke or that sort of thing.
Life deals a different hand to lots of different people. There are residents at Cornwallis Court now who are younger than me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're only a spring chicken, aren't you?
Thank you very much.
There you go.
But the most important thing is the impact on the families.
Yeah.
So I had a case recently where a Freemason was infirm, was wanting to stay at home for independence, and then said that he said to his daughter that he wanted to go into a care home. And the thing that clinched it was that actually at Cornwallis Court they hold lodge meetings. Every so often, the friends do that. They go in and they hold a lodge meeting. And as soon as he heard that, he actually said, well, sign me up. And after he went into Cornwallis Court, his daughter contacted myself and my team and said how that had changed her life. The impact of not having the worry and not having the link to dad and having to look after him day in, day out, relieves such a lot of pressure from him. And it changed a lot.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who are caring for their parents, and they're not classed as carers, are they? But they have that responsibility, and you say that stress, everything goes with it. So something like that is a real benefit.
So when somebody says to me, I'd like to go into Cornwallis Court, what I do is I signpost them to ring Cornwallis Court, ring the inquiries line there. They speak to Angela, who's the manager. She will go through what their requirements are and whether there's any availability. And then once they've actually done a test in terms of their financial well-being and whether they can afford to pay themselves or whether the council has to pay for them or whether the RMBI has to pay for them, then they will obviously be taken in. But the important thing with Cornwallis Court is that if your funds go below a certain level and you're in a normal care home, you'll be transferred to another care home where the cost is more applicable.
Yeah.
With Cornwallis Court, you'll never leave.
Lovely.
Any top-up in fees that is needed will come between the council and what is required by Cornwallis Court will be met by the MCM.
Which is very reassuring, isn't it?
And last year, they put in £156,250 just in supporting Freemasons in Cornwallis Court.
Which is outstanding. And I think it's important that the younger members and members of any lodge understand what Cornwallis Court can offer. And this is why things like the podcast start to educate and inform, which is part of our ethos here. Now, there are a number of people who will not necessarily aren't at the Cornwallis Court stage of their life, but are still needing a lot of support.
Yeah.
And Jamie, you can give us a bit of an overview of the types of things that people can receive support on.
So, I mean, my role is a lot wider than just providing support. So my role is to ensure that almoners around the province provide what I call pastoral care, which is making sure they look after their members, not only the members, but obviously their families as well, and that they have the skills to do that. And the almoner team will support them. But where there is a need, then we can actually harvest the skills and the support that is coming from the Masonic Foundation. And that comes under five areas. So there's financial support, then there's help for health and well-being. There's also help for children and education. As we've talked about the RMBI support and obviously Cornwallis Court. And then there's general advice as well. So there's 5 areas. So just briefly going through that, in terms of financial help, if somebody's circumstances has changed and they've fallen on hard times, then there will be an assessment if they're needed in terms of their income, their household income. So it's for them and anybody else in the household. And if that is below a threshold, then the NCF will make it up to that threshold. And that threshold is set by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. In addition to that, they can apply for home modifications. They can apply for white goods. If they fall on hard times and one of the members of the family die, they can even pay for funeral costs as well. And yes, there's a lot of financial assistance that is available.
And what you're just cutting in, what you're talking about, some of this is enabling somebody to remain in their home as well, isn't it? Which is highly important.
Yes. So this is making sure that they can maintain an independent life for as long as possible. And we realise that everybody's circumstances are different, and we tailor it to their needs.
Yes.
So in addition to that, the one that's come forward since COVID is assistance with health. And so that forms into 2 categories. One is because our hospitals and the waiting list for our hospitals for operations is now to a stage where people are in real distress, we will do a medical application, and that is for things like hip replacements, knee replacements, cardiology, dentistry, the whole range. And you can even go into prosthetics.
You had to be careful.
Yeah, I had to make sure I got that right. Prosthetics, that's a funny one.
That could have lifted the ears of some, couldn't it?
It could have done. It could have done. Mobility aids as well, and also respite care.
Yeah.
So they will come in and they will provide operations which go through private hospitals and actually get that done in a good.
And I suspect a lot of people don't fully understand this, which and again is useful for why we're doing this. And this is all done through the Lodge Almoner in conjunction with the Group Almoner and yourself.
Yes. So we have within the Group Almoner team, we have 3 of us are what we call visiting volunteers, and we are operating under the umbrella of the MCF when we are a visiting volunteer. We go out and see all the applicants, and we fill out all the forms, and we make sure that we write a report, but then we'll go to the grants team in London to assess what level of support they can give.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to say they can't give any support because the threshold of income for the family is too low.
Yeah, which is fair enough. But will they match fund on something like that?
Where their savings may be above a certain level, they will look to say, we will do so much and then you can do so much.
Mm.
But they are flexible in when they look at each case. Okay.
Because I've been really impressed with the almoners I've met in my Masonic career, for want of a better phrase. And sometimes you don't appreciate how hard they work. And one being a Mason who'd moved to our lodge, had recently died. But he'd been ill for quite some time, and it was clear that it was highly unlikely he was going to come out. And his wife was travelling every day. Some of that was to Norwich, and it was just the compassion and the support that the almoner gave, which I know gave her a great deal of reassurance, and also his family. And this is what you talked about, Jamie. So it isn't just about the individual; it's the whole family picture, isn't it?
So I was never an almoner before I became provincial Grand Almoner, but I can say now I will always be an almoner. It is bred into me now. And that's because what I get out of it is so great.
Yeah.
As an almoner, you make a real difference. You make a difference for those individuals that you come into contact with, but also not just that individual, as you said, it's the rest of the family, and maybe even the wider circle of friends as well. Yeah. And they come to you and they say, thank you so much for all you've done. And that, to me, as a Freemason, is actually what we're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just on the question, just narrowing in on the operation. So is that just the Mason, or is that family for operation?
No, so it can be. The eligibility for support from the MCF is the Mason, obviously the wife, or even the partner, and also the children. But the children are only eligible up to the age of 18, and when they're in full-time education. Right. So there is a limit as far as the support for children is concerned, but certainly for the wife. And even if a Freemason has left Freemasonry for whatever reason, he can still apply for support for double the time that he was a member of a lodge. So it's called the 2 times rule. So if he was a member for 10 years, even after he's left, he will still be eligible with his family for 20 years of support.
That's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. And Peter, were you ever an almoner?
No, I wasn't.
What got you into the role as chairman of Friends of Cornwallis Court?
Well, the chairman at the time was Peter Gwatkin.
Yes.
And he just approached me and said, would you like to join the committee? As you do.
Famous line.
Would you like to join my...
This isn't going to cause you too much work.
Yes.
And
there's nothing to it.
It was out of the blue, and I really didn't give it a great deal of thought beforehand. And I wasn't sure. But I will say that a bit like Jamie, it gets under your skin. Mm. And you find, I was on the committee for several years, and then I was the chairman just before the pandemic. So it's been a kind of sort of start from. But I love it.
Yeah. How much time do you think you have to commit to a week or a month? It probably varies.
Well, it does vary because as chairman, you're actually finding other volunteers to do things.
Yeah, you just want to invite somebody to join a committee.
Yeah, I'm just sort of going to, we have volunteers. Every home, every R&DI home has a group of volunteers called Friends, and we're a registered charity, and we get the fun bit really of making the residents smile, giving them a quality of life over and above all the technical stuff that change looks like. We have in the past bought a specialist electric wheelchair for a lady who had broken her back. It cost something like over 10,000.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
They would not probably have afforded that themselves.
Could not afford it themselves. Jamie brought up the business about lodge meetings at Cornwallis Court. So I've got you to blame for that, have I?
You see, these podcasts, we're going to get the truth out of people, aren't we?
Yeah, but actually the residents are always having a bit of a laugh with
Well, we always had a problem with that. We do run a rota for the Masonic members. It meets on a Friday every 2 weeks, and one of us takes the meeting, and it can be a Masonic subject matter or whatever. And those guys jealously guard that. If Emma, the entertainment lady, comes in, can a lady join you? No way.
Really? That's interesting, isn't it?
They're very protective of the Masonic card.
Well, just quickly, when I was at Colford Lodge, we would get members of Cornwallis attend our meetings on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And some of them were incredibly interesting. They weren't from necessarily around here, from memory, but so interesting to talk to.
Oh, yes. There's some there now. There's a John there now who if we talk to him, he tells you he's got a broken shoulder. Well, it's mended now, but he can't play the piano anymore. So how did you get your broken shoulder? Oh, I tripped over a step. Where? St. Paul's Cathedral, as I was coming away from playing the organ.
My word.
And he'd also played the organ at Grand Lodge.
Yeah, there's not many people who do that.
Yeah, and okay. Lovely guy.
Yeah. Are you always looking for volunteers?
Always.
Any criteria?
No.
Just join a committee?
No. The more volunteers, the less workload there is for everybody else.
Yeah.
I think I've got about 5 who do the regular Friday meeting. If I had 10, then we would either do it every Friday instead of every other Friday, or we could make it longer between them.
And if somebody wants more information about that, who do they contact?
They contact me, or they contact the home and they come through, or through our membership secretary.
Right.
There's different ways. Phone the home, they'll contact.
Have you got an email address that you can give people on the podcast now?
I can give you mine.
Why not?
Where?
Give it.
Wow. Okay, petegreen.900@btinternet.com.
He said that quickly, didn't he?
Just, you need to say that. I could see people writing very
Can you just repeat that?
Pete, P-E-T-E, Pete Green, .900, it's the number 900, at btinternet.com.
Lovely. We're going to try and do something for you then, Jamie. you've given a hell of a lot of your time to this role, haven't you? I remember you being appointed because you were a group rep, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
And then you became almoner, and every almoner, every provincial officer does a wonderful job. And then the next person comes along and almost builds on what that previous incumbent did. And you seem to have really got a passion for this.
Well, I mean, I have to say, Kerry Lewis, my predecessor, he did a fantastic job as provincial almoner. And I had to take a different view because of COVID. Yeah. So what I did is I took a view that I had to build a team underneath me, which would be able to provide support to all of the lodges around the province during the COVID period. So that's where I came up with the group almoner team. And that has developed. It's developed on, and it means that the projects and the support that we can give is much wider now than I think it has been previously. And there's a couple of just examples I want to give out now, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
One is that we actually run now the Suffolk Provincial Benevolent Fund, which is an emergency fund for Freemasons in Suffolk and their families if it is an emergency and is outside the scope of the MCF support. And we give funding support to those cases within 7 days. So it's up to a maximum of £1,000. But I have a special fund that I've built over the last 4 years with the help of the Provincial charity. And we have given out 4 awards in the last 6 months, just to show that actually we're doing it. And that will complement what we do within the MCF. So the MCF give out in total, with the support to the RMBI as well, between £300,000 and £400,000 to Suffolk each year.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, we actually have this emergency fund.
And what sort of thing will that cover?
It's anything. I mean, for example, I've had a case where a brother had fallen on hard times during COVID. He had £9.71 in his bank account. Right. And he told me that he couldn't feed his kids next week. Yeah. So I put that money into his account so that he could do that. Yeah. More recently, we've had a case where somebody had to move into emergency housing. And for whatever reason, they had to change their housing and they had no money to pay for the next house. So we provided them with £1,000 to provide them with accommodation.
Again, this type of podcast is going to inform people that there is this. I know almoners are very proactive in trying to get the message across. But sometimes an almoner's report in Lodge is right at the end of a long meeting, isn't it? Yeah. And people go, I'm looking forward to the festive board and a quick fine, which is natural, isn't it?
Yeah.
So other things you want to get across?
Yeah, so, I mean, there are some other projects running in Suffolk. So in addition to the Suffolk Benevolent Fund, there is also now the Suffolk Mobility Aid Scheme, which is now providing mobility equipment to Suffolk Freemasons and their families free of charge for up to 6 months. So we now have 3 containers, one in Bury St Edmunds, one in Lowestoft and one at the A140, which is now going to have things like wheelchairs and Zimmer frames and crutches. And if anybody wants it, then they can actually have that free of charge on a loan basis for 6 months, rather than go to the Red Cross where they have to pay a higher charge. Yeah. And Peter is supporting me, so if anything comes out of the of Cornwallis Court, that will be added to the scheme when we'll have more equipment to hand out.
And so the more, if anybody have elderly parents, whatever, and they've still got equipment, then let the group almoner know that can
be fed up to it.
Yeah.
We've got the very good friends. So this is helping people to walk with issues and actually have people that we can marry up. So if you've got an issue with cancer care or anything like that and you're frightened about it, we can marry you up with somebody who's been through that journey. So that's another thing that we're doing. And mental well-being is a big focus for us. We obviously have the MCF helpline, but we also can provide support locally as well.
Do you know the number of the MCF helpline?
Yes, I do. Yes, so the MCF helpline is burned into my brain, Mark. It's 0800 035 60 90. And that's the inquiries line at the MCF.
Because hopefully people are going to be listening to this and possibly doing something else. The beauty of a podcast is you can do other things. And some people might be sitting there thinking, how am I going to pay my next bill? Or actually work's gone on top of me. And actually my wife's not very well, but I didn't appreciate that I can get that support. So this enables people to understand what is available to them. And if they speak to their almoner, which we know is in total confidence, then that support can progress.
Yeah.
Peter, I know you want to say something similar to me.
Oh, yeah, I've got lots. But anyway, while we're talking about almoners, there is a brochure we have produced with the Association of Friends. And about a month before the end of the season, quantity of these were sent out to every almoner in every lodge in the 3 counties
Right.
So if anybody is sitting at home listening to this podcast and their almoner hasn't given them this brochure, they should go and ask for them.
Right. Or contact Peter on the email address if you
Contact me. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very good. That's great. Thank you.
This brochure explains what the Friends do,
Yeah.
what they're about,
Yeah.
their raison d'etre. And there is an ability to subscribe and pay money.
You see,
On the back of the
masonry,
board.
you either go onto a committee to do something, don't you?
Yes.
And masonry's free. Well, we know it's not.
Yeah.
It's support.
It's very supportive. You're absolutely right.
All I would say on that point, Mark, is we giggle about it, but in Suffolk, we get double the amount of money back that we raise from our festivals.
Yeah.
So we're targeting, I think, around about £1.5 million. In the last 5 years, we've actually had over £2 million direct from the MCA, and then the support from the MBA.
And what's really good is listening to both of you, the support from the Friends of Cornwallis, but also how that almoner's role has really developed. And we're talking about mental health now. We're talking about white goods. We're talking about things that would probably have never been considered before. The chairs, the frames, because unfortunately we are getting an elderly population within masonry, but we want to make sure that they still come to lodge. People with mental health get over that and still have the confidence to come. Because if you help, say, volunteer at the Cornwallis Court, or your almoner or somebody has made you feel inspired to come back to lodge, then that's what this is all about.
So I'd like to just advertise one last thing, which is the Military Veterans Days, which I started last year as well. So if you're a Suffolk Freemason and you're a military veteran, or serving or past serving, a veteran, you can come to Helmingham Hall on Friday, the 20th of September. The Suffolk Freemasons is doing a day with the Not Forgotten charity. Everybody's invited, free of charge, and it's all on us.
And it was a really good event last year.
It was a good event.
Gentlemen, we have run out of time. It's frightening how quickly this 30 minutes or so goes. It may well be later on in the year we have another chat, because one, that'd be great, Pete, to get an update on how the building's going. And there's so much more we could have talked about. I wanted to talk about succession planning for almoners, and I'm sure there's other things you want to do. So thank you very much for your time. It's been really informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining me on Suffolk Province's free and accepted podcasting as we explore the craft and Royal Arch. Please join me and my guests for more episodes.